Welcome. I am the mother of Steve Rumler, who died of a drug overdose after becoming addicted to the OxyContin that was prescribed to him for his chronic pain. Drug overdoses are now killing more Americans than car crashes. One person dies every 16 minutes in this country of a drug overdose. We are fed up.
I am a gymnast and a diver. My friends and colleagues describe me as intelligent, personable, and well-spoken. I was given opportunities that people only dream of. I wanted for nothing. I essentially had the perfect life, according to everyone that knew me. I am college educated, I am a daughter, I am a sister, I am a friend, and I am an opioid addict. One fateful night, when I was 18 years old, I began a deeper and more tragic spiral. I decided to snort one small pill that would forever change the course of my life. Looking back, it is absolutely terrifying that the one substance that nearly led to my death was so readily available to young kids. I'm one of the lucky ones. I now stand in front of you 2.5 years clean. Thank you. But not everyone is as lucky as I am. So many loved ones have been lost to this terrible epidemic that we are facing. And now, I'd like to invite you all to join me in the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
There have been more than 125,000 overdose deaths from painkillers. That figure, 125,000, is greater than the number of Americans that died fighting in Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, combined. In fact, it's more than 2 times as much as the number of people who died in those conflicts combined. But when you hear that figure, you should keep in mind that it's a very large undercount. It doesn't include the many overdose deaths that never get recorded properly. It doesn't include the thousands of suicides by people who feel trapped by the disease of addiction. And it doesn't include the thousands of related deaths other than suicides that are caused by painkillers and opioids. When we think about 125,000, we should also recognize that that's just the overdose deaths, that figure also doesn't include the millions of people who are now struggling with the disease of opioid addiction, a disease which doesn't just affect the individual who has it, it's a disease that affects an entire family, an entire community. This is a public health emergency, yet the response from the federal government has been tragically ineffective. Between pain patients and people who are addicted and people who use non-medically, there's tremendous overlap. Millions of pain patients are being harmed by aggressive opioid prescribing. During the AIDS epidemic, there was a slogan, "Silence equals death." We're not going to be silent. We're fed up. And if it's necessary, we'll be back here next year with 10 times as many people. Thank you.
I'm here to represent every single person that we lost to opiates. You know, isn't it funny that the day that we gather over here, the government is shut down? It's been shut down for us for the past 10 years or more. We haven't had no action from some of the clowns that run FDA and HHS. I don't know about you guys, but I'm pissed. I want some action. I want some people to account for what they do. I was the first one to hold my son when he was born. And I was the last one to hold him when they left this world. My son put a shotgun to his neck and took his life. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like that pain. There's nothing like it when you see your son struggling to breathe and he's splattered all over the wall. Now, I knew back then, 2 years ago, that I was not going to sit still. I knew back then that something had to be done. We had to inform people. Well, you know what? I'll be damned if I'm going to sit here today and let some clown feel like he's God and decide that he's not going to upschedule hydrocodone and he's not going to do anything because my son was prescribed into addiction by a doctor. If we all speak in one voice, we can change this. We can get this to stop. All we got to do is set a mind to do it. Forget about everything else. The longer this is delayed, the more kids are dying. Just think about it. The DEA has asked in 2004 to upschedule hydrocodone. 2004, that's 9 years. My God, in 10 years in Iraq, we lost 4,000 people. In 1 year, we lose over 16,000 people. What's wrong with them? Are our kids just throwaway kids? No. Who decides who's to die and who's to live? So I ask you, speak in one voice, get ready, because right after this, we're going to walk down to HHS and kick Sibilia's ass.
Well, thank you for being here because, you know, in the end, if our government doesn't respond to people in need, it doesn't serve its legitimate purpose. And all of you have observed over the last couple of days all the dysfunction in Washington. And I can't tell you how important it is that you're here. Because if you go away, that's typically what the federal bureaucracy does. They wear you down, they ignore you until you go away. My one piece of advice to you, do not go away. And please know that there are people here in Washington that are responsive to you and that are listening. And always remember, from those that you have lost, there is still light to guide you from the love that they gave you. Thank you very much for including me.
I'd like to now speak not only for my son Aaron and our family, but also for all those who could not be with us today and all the families forever affected by the prescription drug epidemic. I close my eyes, it's 2005, and I hear the doctor say, "I'm sorry for your loss. You're going to lose your son today." A night of friends, oxy, and pills left Aaron lifeless, cold and still. He laid in a coma 3.5 weeks, alone, non-responsive, and unreachable sleep. His family gathered, grieved, and cried. None understood, and all wondered why. On day 26, Aaron's destiny changed. He would survive, but not unscathed. Aaron's a quadriplegic who cannot speak. His wheelchair will be his permanent seat. We care for him daily, yet feel very blessed. 10,947 others that year put loved ones to rest. In 2008, another 14,000 plus. When will this end? When is enough enough? Again in 2010, overdose deaths pick up steam. Another 16,651 will never achieve their dreams. I speak to our leaders, whom we've entrusted our care, help end this epidemic, the death and despair. We're first to aid others in lands across the sea, ending their anguish, suffering, and disease. Let's act here at home with that same conviction to end loss of life and the disease of addiction. Let's rise above ego, power, and greed, make policy changes, and help those in need. It's too late for Aaron and far too many others who've lost mothers and fathers, sisters, and brothers. I ask you to act quickly. Heal our country. Hear our pleas. Please do what is needed. God bless and Godspeed.
Thank you so much. I want to ask just one question. Are you fed up? It's unbelievable, just totally unbelievable. I had a conversation yesterday with the FDA. Asked them, what's taking so long? 8 months. 8 months I appeared before them and gave the testimony of why we thought it should be reclassified to their committee. And they, for the first time, agreed to do it. They agreed. And nothing's been done. So I want you to know we haven't forgotten. You're on the front line, and I appreciate so much all the organizations coming together. And it really is what it's about. For our government to work for this great country of ours and the society we've lost, we can't afford to lose another generation. My little state's been hit so hard, but let me just tell you, everywhere I go, I talk to people. I said, is there anybody in a crowd that I'm speaking, I don't care where it is, there's not one person that hasn't been affected by illegal drug use, or illegal or prescription drug abuse. Not one. Whether it's their family member, a very close member of their family or extended family. Everybody has somebody who's been affected. So it's of epidemic proportion. And if this is a fight that we can't lose, you lose this fight, God help us all. In the last 11 years, think of this. A loss of life by overdose has been up 287%. 287% over 11 years, and we've still not done a thing about it. There's not a person, remember this, there's not one congressperson, there's not one senator that's not been affected by legal and illegal drug abuse. Not one of us. So we're on the front line with you. God bless you. Thank each and every one of you. God bless the great country of the United States of America. Thank you all.
Hello again. I would like to introduce to you a good friend. He's been a champion of our cause. He's always, always been there for us. Senator Chuck Schumer.
Well, thank you, Avi, and thank you for your stalwartness. And I'd like to say this to so many here, including those who have suffered losses. I look at the pictures and I feel your pain, and I have such respect for those who have come here who have lost loved ones to this prescription drug abuse epidemic, because you know what the scriptures say? It's very easy to curse the darkness. And when you've lost a child or a spouse or a parent, a relative, it's easy to curse the darkness. But it takes great strength and courage and fortitude to light a candle, to take the darkness away so that other people will not suffer as you will always suffer because of the hole in your heart that never heals when you lose a loved one. And I promise you this, in honor of your children, in honor of your friends, in honor of your relative, in honor of all those beautiful pictures that I'm looking at here, which are certainly equal more than 1,000 words. I will not rest until our legislation becomes law, we beat the scourge of prescription drugs, and there won't be any more people having to join you holding pictures in the future. Thank you very much.
Let me first commend Judy and all that have worked so hard, not only on this issue each and every day of their lives, but in organizing this rally and presenting to the members of Congress and to Capitol Hill just how fed up we are, how fed up our nation should be. And like each of you, I'm fed up as well. Fed up with the pain and the loss that addiction has inflicted on our families and communities. I'm fed up with the pain and the loss that addiction has meant to members of families across this country. Indeed, I'm fed up with the whole sorry mess. This is an issue that transcends party lines, political lines, philosophical lines, all societal lines, whether you're 9 or 90, whether you're rich or poor. This affects us all. And I want you to know that I'm there, ready to fight, willing to fight, have been fighting, and will continue to fight. And God bless each of you, and God bless our great United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you to Congressman Ray Hall from West Virginia.
I am here to deliver a single message regarding prescription opioids, which is that we're going to need the help of these guys, of Congress, to get the FDA back on track. For those of you who are unaware of it, the FDA's pretense of using science for regulatory decision-making is a sham. There was no scientific reason that the risk evaluation and mitigation strategies should have applied only to extended release and long-acting opioids. Immediate release opioids are every bit as dangerous. Most prescription opioid deaths are due to immediate release opioids. We need the FDA to understand the reality of the disease of addiction, to understand that addicts do not realize ahead of time that they will become addicts, and to promote recognition among both doctors and patients that prescribing opioids carries with it the inherent risk of opioid addiction. We need the FDA to get in step with the CDC, the DEA, and with its own advisory committees. So far, there's no indication that the FDA will do any of this. The FDA has made concessions around the margins, but the FDA has simply not embraced the reality of this epidemic and the need for it to act. Since the FDA will not perform its primary mission of, quote, protecting the public health by assuring the safety, efficacy, and security of human and veterinary drugs, we need congressional leadership to move them to do their job. Thank you.
I don't know why the press hasn't latched on to this national epidemic like they should have. But the Center for Disease Control has called it a national epidemic. We finally, I think, have the FDA's half concerned. They've been making some changes that we've been pushing now for years and years, decades even. More to come, more needs to be done, but at least I think we've got the FDA's interest in what you are working toward. I just wanted to come by and say thank you for being here. I've got to run quickly because we've got a couple of things that's working out today in this town. But thank you for being here. Thanks for the work that you're doing back home and nationally. You are making a dent We are beginning now to see some real progress in my own state of Kentucky. Overdose deaths declined last year for the first time in I don't know when. So thank you, God bless, and keep up the great work.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Such an honor for me to be here. As you all know, we're in the midst of a crisis that's destroying lives and hurting families and across the country, including here in the Congressional District. I am not talking about the shutdown. I am talking about the epidemic of opioid drugs. Look, this crisis has gone on long enough. Too many lives have already been lost. Too many individuals and families have been damaged as a result of the opioid crisis. We cannot wait any longer. We must take federal action. When? Now. We can save lives and families of those who don't need to suffer and protect families from the suffering, the harmful effects that result from the misuse of opioids. I am so grateful to all of you being here. I'm glad to see that you are fed up. I am too, and we can make a difference. When? Now. Thank you very much for what you're doing.
Okay, let me tell you just a little bit about New Mexico, because we are number one, and not just for tourism and Red Rocks. We are number one in the U.S., like you heard from one of the congressmen, for overdose, with 60% of those overdoses associated with prescription opioids. We're tied for number one for percent of people with substance use disorders from illicit and prescription drugs. And we are definitely number one for lack of treatment resources. This is a direct result of inaction and lack of prioritization by the federal government in providing resources and regulation to end what they themselves call a crisis. And one more thing, a message to President Obama: please finally provide guidance and rules for enforcement of the Mental Health Parity and Addiction Equity Act, so that we can stop the stigma and discrimination created and perpetuated by the insurance industry, and get people treated adequately and appropriately for this catastrophic disease. Thank you.
My name is Charlie Resnikoff. Everybody calls me Charlie, so you can come up and talk to me afterwards. And I'm an addiction medicine doctor and an internal medicine doctor and a consultant to a pain clinic in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm also a University of Minnesota assistant professor, and I teach about pain medications. Almost all of the problem of opioids in America start with average doctors. And average doctors mean well. They are just not well educated, and they are not well supported to do the right thing. So doctors don't know how to prescribe opioids safely. They don't know how to not prescribe opioids. If we get attention to the problem quickly and smartly, we can get things back in place again. So thank you very much for your time.
For my son, he graduated high school, went to somebody's house, and was given an OxyContin on a mirror by someone's father, who was not a pain patient, not a legitimate one. He walked with a cane, but he didn't have pain. And there are people that do, and I want to acknowledge that. But there are too many that don't, that just give it out, deal it, and kill people. And many of our kids might end up dealing it themselves because they're gone after they get that addiction, and then they need to feed it. And that becomes their only role in life every day, is where am I going to get my next fix, because I can't live without it. It takes someone's child and replaces it, him or her, with someone else. I'm fed up. I'm tired of the death. I'm tired of the destruction. I'm proud of all the people that are here that came together from all over the country. In Massachusetts, we just had a celebration at our state house that there's been 2,000 saves since they started nasal naloxone. I have a hard time with the word celebrate. I agree with the other speakers. We shouldn't need it. And until they do something back here, we're just going to keep losing more and more precious lives. These are our sons, our daughters, our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our fathers. I'm proud to stand up with everybody today, and I hope this is the first of many, and I hope someday we don't have to do this anymore, but I'll never give up. The government may have shut down, but I won't ever give up.
When the FDA blindly approved the broad indications of OxyContin for chronic non-cancer pain over 15 years ago, they relied upon drug industry hype and short, poor-quality, substandard studies produced or supported by Purdue Pharma. But now, after all the terrible outcomes which have subsequently occurred, they have criticized and nitpicked the evidence-based studies cited in the prop petition, which provides them with the poor excuse of maintaining the status quo of opioid prescribing, along with the supply and availability of narcotic pills which are flooding into our streets and schools. This all points to the coziness of the FDA and the opioid drug industry they are mandated to regulate, while at the same time they've turned a blind eye to the victims and the victims' families of prescription opioids and the mounting national toll of opioid-related addiction, overdose, and death, which continues unabated with no end in sight. The time is long overdue to turn this around. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I am tired, and I'm feeling really emotional today. I have to tell you that I have been responsible for putting up the pictures of your loved ones on Facebook and getting the names of all the loved ones to Pete, getting Scarlett and Natalie, the pictures of your loved ones. I have never in my life done anything so challenging, and I am a person in recovery. I do not understand why in our great country, a place where we have freedom, where we have protections set up to help people live a quality life, I do not understand why the #1 prescribed drug in our country today is heroin. Somebody tell me does everybody here know that Vicodin is the same thing as heroin? Let me see some hands. Do we know this? Okay, how come our doctors don't know that? So these are the things we need to do. You need to keep standing up. We need to change prescribing practices. We need to educate people, the public, as well as the recovery community, as well as doctors. We need 911 Good Samaritan in your state, in every state, a national law. We need to reduce stigma. Being an addict is not a moral failing, it is a disease. Thank you very much for being here. I'm proud of each and every one of you.
I'm a veteran, and I saw pain the first time in the battlefield and understood that pain kills. Acute pain kills. And opioids for that are very helpful. And then I decided to become a pain medicine doctor and became a professor in pain medicine and ran one of the largest programs at the University of Washington in Seattle, the birthplace of modern pain medicine, the first pain clinic in the country in 1953, and I was its head. We would see hundreds of patients a day, and then I saw what I thought pain kills, I saw painkillers kill when it's chronic pain. The experiment of high-dose opioids has failed. After 100,000 deaths, with 100 million Americans suffering from chronic pain, at a cost of over $500 billion, fueling a $8 billion business, it has failed. We are consuming 80% of the opioids in the world because we're special, and this has to stop.
Thank you to all of you, especially those that have lost so much, that you take time out of a very difficult life to come to Washington and make sure your voices are heard, and to make sure those that have lost their lives did not lose their lives in vain, and that something good can come out of it. And if we can save even one life, if we can save even one teenager, then it is all worth it. So know that you have a partner here. I had a whole big long speech, but I know you've been here a long time. You've heard most of the statistics, and unfortunately you live it. So you're the experts. And that's the other reason why I want you to know I'm here, is that I'm committed to meeting with groups like yours to learn as much as I can so I can be a better, more effective advocate and voice, whether I'm sitting across the table from the FDA or whether I'm sitting with Chairman Hal Rogers, who you couldn't have, he's the Chairman of Appropriations. You couldn't have a stronger partner than Hal Rogers from Kentucky in this fight. He gets it, and there's a cadre of members that this issue is visceral. It really rings home. It's in our hearts. For me, it's because Staten Island has the worst epidemic of all 5 boroughs, and now I know so many people that have lost sons and daughters and loved ones, and I don't want to see any more death. I don't want to see any more families ripped apart senselessly. We have to do more. We should be doing more. We have to fight for the funding. We have to make sure these programs are effective, and you are a big part in making that happen. So I want to say thank you to all of you. I hope you have a great rally, a great march. God bless you, and I'm very proud to stand with you. Hope to see you soon.
My wife and I lost our 18-year-old daughter, Emily, after she consumed one OxyContin pill, swallowed whole, that had been offered to her by a relative. Nobody called 911. She was simply left alone to die on a couch. My daughter was a wonderful young lady. She was the babysitter next door. She was the friendliest person I've ever known. I mean, she was just incredibly sweet and friendly. And, you know, we just feel that, you know, this just wasn't supposed to happen to her. And it just came out of the blue. And she died 3 days before her first day in college. Her new life just about to explode ahead of her, and she didn't make it to that classroom. But the lesson from Emily's tragedy is these opioid drugs are extremely dangerous. One pill can kill. OxyContin, after all, is nothing more than legalized heroin. Anyway, I miss Emily, and it really hurts. This rally is intended to induce urgently needed action because people are dying every day from painkillers. Today we will lose 45 people from prescription opioids. As Dr. Kolodny said, that's a significant undercount. These are regular, average, everyday Americans, okay? Let's shatter the myth. People like Emily are dying every day. I would like to thank you for attending this rally and for speaking out. Our collective voices will be heard. Thank you very much.
Many of these deaths occurred on Secretary Sebelius's watch.
All right. Secretary Sebelius. Come on up. Secretary, and why don't you answer us?
We're fed up! 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 We're fed up!
So can you join me? 1, 2, 3, 4, stay silent, no more. 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 1, 2, 3, 4, stay silent, no more.
I'm Bradley DeHaven. My wife and I are a normal family, like so many of you. And I will tell you that 3 years on September 13th, our son celebrated something we were all here for, and that's hope. He celebrated 3 years of clean and sober. Our son at one point stood 6'2" and weighed 127 pounds. Deeply addicted to OxyContin and heroin that started with a broken arm when he fell off a trampoline as a young child. It could happen to any child, and it's happened to your children. How many of you here, by a raise of hands and your sign, have buried a loved one? And that's a sad testament. You've all buried a loved one. I've buried loved ones. We didn't bury our son. We are blessed for that. But we're here to create one voice, and we need to become one voice. We're small grassroots organizations across the United States that come here together and to prove that we can become one voice and change the madness that is Big Pharma and the puppet at the FDA, which I think stands for failure, death, and addiction. That's what they've given us, failure, death, and addiction. And they look the other way. They don't follow the advice of their voting panels. But we're here for hope. Many of you don't have that hope. Many of you won't hug your child again, as I won't hug some of my loved ones again. But we're here so that others, like myself, can continue to hug their child, and that they never walk in our steps. And that's why we march here today with our hearts in our hands, with your pictures that break my heart and my wife's heart, and the stories that just mean so much to us as a family, and we've all become a family. And many of you I've interviewed before and talked to before, and we love you like your family, and we are fed up. We are fed up. We are fed up. We are fed up. We are fed up.
To conclude this demonstration by reading off a list of names of lost loved ones, and we've asked some people to help, and we may ask a few more people to help to get through the list. I'll start with a list of people that I've got here in front of me. My daughter, Emily Jackson, date of birth, February 22nd, 1988, date of death, August 18th, 2006, age 18. Aaron Edward Watson, born October 8th, 1973, date of death, May 11th.